This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we spotlight guest Tracey Brown, who was a nutrition and fitness coach for 18 years before suffering a stroke in 2019. The following 5 years, Tracey ran on adrenalin, serving as a wellness coach for stroke survivors. But recently, Tracey was forced to slow down, sit in silence, and face her new normal. As a boisterous extrovert, Tracey felt silence was deafening. Now that she's come out on the other side, she shares her findings in hopes to motivate other stroke survivors. Tracey's story is entitled Moment of Silence. Thank you for joining us for part 1, Tracey Brown's story.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. This week, we welcome guest Tracey Brown. She figured out a way to align her personal passions, interests, strengths with her professional life. For the past 23 years, Tracey worked in the wellness industry as a nutritionist and wellness coach. In 2019, at the age of 37, Tracey suffered a stroke. Today, she shares her recent setback and the revelations that followed. Her story is entitled Moment of Silence. But before we begin, we'll take a moment of pause. Tracey often asks, what makes you smile? So today, before we begin, let us imagine the answer to that question for ourselves. What makes me smile? Hold that. Feel it. What makes me happy? What makes me healthy? And in this moment, I ask that you call to mind someone in your life that might need connection. Visualize their face and ponder what makes them smile, what makes them happy, what makes them healthy. And today, let's send them some love and light and offer them grace. And today, for the light that shines in us and the light that shines in others, we give thanks. Hi, Tracey.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, I'm glad that you're here with us today.
I am so happy that you had me. Yes, I am so ready.
Yeah. All right, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, guys. How are you, beautiful people? I got to give you all my energy before I get into my story. So I'm so excited, y'all, to share this with you. I truly am. And Monty has just been wonderful in preparing for this moment. Before my stroke, I took pride in a stellar wellness track with zero health concerns. I was in my prime, and at that point, I lived my life in the health and wellness industry for 18 years. As a nutritionist, fitness coach, and person, my motto was truly make it a lifestyle. So, what makes you happy? What makes you smile? And what makes you healthy, essentially? My goal was and still is to equip each individual with tools they need to truly live their best life. That looks different to everyone. And in this story of myself, I want to tell you about how my stroke stopped me, sat me down, and taught me to listen and learn from my own sound advice. This story begins on January 23rd, heading to California for a fitness show. While sitting in the tarmac, our flight was delayed. The flight attendant got on the intercom to offer complimentary drinks. All of a sudden, my legs felt like they were 200 pounds. Even though I was in the middle seat, I figured out a way to flip my body upside down. I had spun my legs around and faced my friend, then stretched them up and rested them atop his head. Yep, I was one of those sights you see when cramming people from all walks of life into a small space in a stressful situation. So I was squished in the middle seat. Yes, think about that side. Lying sideways with my legs in the air and resting on my friend's head. There was, by the grace of God, a nice man next to me, and likely my angel, he told me I could rest my head in his lap. He covered my eyes because the lights felt too bright for me and my head was pounding with excruciating pain. I rode the rest of the flight with my eyes covered. When we landed, I thought to myself, thank God I made it through the flight. Jesus, I mean, nothing else to say but that. So now I just need to eat so I can feel better. So when we arrived at my aunt's house, I couldn't get myself to eat. Even though I knew I needed food, I felt off. But instead, I still went right to sleep. When I awoke the next morning, I realized I still wasn't 100%, but likely, and Tracey thought I just need to eat. So I jumped up, went into the kitchen, and turned my food on. When I returned to my room to get dressed, I felt my lip quiver and bent down to tie my shoes, and I fell. But when I popped back up, my friend intercepted me and set me on the bed and instantly called 911. At that point, my aunt approached the room and began to question. She was wondering what was wrong with me and was confused as I have always been the healthy one and at this point was 37 years young. I was confused and frustrated to say, and I urged there was no need to call 911. But within seconds, I went into a full-blown seizure, passed out, and woke up 3 days later from a medically induced coma. At that point, I learned that I had suffered a stroke. What is a stroke? I'm going to have to say that was my first thoughts. But my left side was paralyzed. The doctor that visited my room began to tell me about the statistics of people in cases similar to mine. He told me I wouldn't walk or move around as I did before, etc., etc. My words to him, in my slur, I must say, because I couldn't talk. Ha, You do not know the God I serve, as I ain't going to be your statistic. So I was in Casa Colina rehab facility. But as soon as I could, I was walking around the rehab facility doing what I love to do, what Tracey does best, offering nutrition, fitness, and wellness advice to patients in the hospital. Yes, guys, the hospital that I was also a patient in. They were probably asking, who is this girl? I was also trying to encourage them to keep smiling and sharing how powerful and wonderful God is. I grew up with a pastor for a dad, so it was my normal thing to do. The neurospecialist was puzzled by my case. She asked me if I had had any trauma to my body. And nonchalantly, Tracey says, not really, other than about 6 months ago, a 400-pound weight was dropped on my leg and, just tore my knee in 3 places, just in 3 places. So, but I chose not to have surgery, as I proceeded to tell her. So in complete astonishment, she cuts me off and says, that explains the 12-inch blood clot in your leg. Drops the mic. If you could see my face. That's the first I had heard that I had a clot in my leg, an entire foot long, 12 inches, you guys, is what I said. 3 times a week for 20 weeks, I had been going to physical therapy, wearing one of those mechanical knee braces, trying to heal from my torn knee. I removed the knee brace before the eventful flight, as I was told by the doctor I was good to travel. And that removal of the knee brace allowed the blood clot to move freely. Therefore, it was no longer compressed. So during my flight, that clot began to move through my body and reached my brain the next morning. And I know you're thinking, so how does one so healthy, so young, have a stroke? Guys, the same question I had, as I didn't have any prior health issues. I'm not sure why I completely ignored the 200-pound leg feeling. Y'all remember I said that. Or the agonizing migraine that began on the plane. And I also didn't put 2 and 2 together, because 2 weeks prior, before the flight, I had a faint headache. I told my best friend Tremia that was weird, as I never get headaches, but again, still brushed it off. But if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have brushed it off so easily. Having a stroke put me in the state of the unknown. I didn't know what was going to happen to me after. I didn't know what was going to happen to me from moment to moment. Unknown floating around my entire life. Before the stroke, I thought life was predictable. I thought I could control outcomes. I thought I could read people and knew how they were going to react. It was my second gift. After the stroke, I began to see things differently. I switched from relying on predictable circumstances to instead relying on my ability to adapt to any circumstance. But let me tell you, this has not always been easy. There is truly something real about the phrase, change is hard. And now I needed to figure out how to smile, to be happy, and be healthy in spite of my disabilities. Y'all remember my phrase, make it a lifestyle. This is what Tracey does. I still want to live this life, y'all. I'm telling you. So even though I now live with both visible and invisible disabilities, I want to connect on a deep level with friends, caretakers, and even though no one truly understands what I'm going through, or what has been taken and what has really changed in my life. But honestly, I kept most of my thoughts and emotions to myself for the first 5 years. I'm Tracey. Growing up, people would say, Tracey is so loud. Y'all see how I started off as I introduced myself. She's always the first one to speak up. She's always got something to say. Yes, that's very true. She's always gathering friends, and she always has a new project. That is Tracey, Tracey, Tracey. They'd ask me, why can't you just sit down? Child, I don't know. You always have to be doing something, and you can't just do one thing at a time. I told y'all I am a natural Jamaican. It doesn't work like that. You're doing too many things at once, and just focus, Tracey. So I call it spunk. I call it joy. I'd call it connection. But the first 5 years after my stroke, I may have been running on adrenaline or the fumes of a life of spunk, joy, and connection. Because I kept rolling with the pre-stroke persona of Tracey. One day, when hosting a pull-up contest, I decided to participate in true Tracey nature, but I competed with one-arm pull-ups as now have one side that doesn't work. Nothing was going to stop me. Again, because Tracey is the person that's always going. I keep moving because I truly do like the noise. Last fall, 5 years into my recovery, as this life I live as a stroke survivor is truly a recovery, my noise finally stopped. Meaning the silence was deafening and became suffocating. So I now had to face the silence. And this happens to most stroke survivors. After the hype, we settle into our new norm. What really is the new norm, we do not know. But the life of a long-term stroke survivor is what it is. And I think what ultimately made me face the facts was my need to rely on others. My need to let others into my life on a deeper level. As I've always been independent, Tracey, I built my own business. I lived on my own, haven't married or kids of my own. I do it my own way in my own time. But within a short period of time, my home of 7 years was sold. I was on crutches due to a foot surgery and moved in with my cousin halfway across the country in Houston. Now, my family is allowing me to enjoy this moment. I carry guilt as I feel the need to keep moving and producing. But moving in with my cousin has truly turned out to be a gift. I couldn't see it in the beginning, guys. It was very hard for me to see this. But when I look back on it now, I see I fell into a 6 months of depression. But reality is, when in the thick of things, I couldn't see how far I had spiraled, how or why. But today I see it from a different place. And I want to share my story with you because I want you to learn to live out loud so that others feel empowered to share and no one suffers in silence. Year 5 is the reverse of my year 1. Everything slowed down. And now I have to sit with it. I've been living on savings and taking care of everything. I'm not disabled. I'm going to say it again. I am not disabled, but I have a disability. I didn't want to be the stroke girl. Now that I slowed down, I realized that what I went through and what I have to sit with, I am the stroke girl. But now what? God has given me help and a community. That's what. And now he's letting me know that I need to learn to accept all parts of me in the silence and in the stillness. I'm learning to accept help and let people in. When I'm open in my room, my nieces and nephews barge in uninvited. I want my space, my time, and my space. I guard myself, but sometimes I don't know what's best for me. So I have this nephew here that I would say is a true ass. Y'all heard what I say, a true ass. He teases me about my arm, which if you've not heard me call the phrase, my left side, I call it blue. So he teaches me about blue, how it doesn't work. And, it's just his way of getting me out of my funk. So in reality, his smirk is his loving shame. So how can you not love that smirk? That smirk truly nudges me in a way to get into my heart. And in his eyes, it's just, I want Auntie Tracey to work out with me. I want her to play games with me. And he doesn't care what blue does and if blue doesn't work, left side, that is. So he always makes a joke about it. But my nephew in his own way is hard on me as his way of showing me true love. He gets me out of my room. He makes me laugh. He gets me out of my funk when I think that's the best way to let me heal. He barges into my room and into my heart. So again, guys, that barge into my room, I see it as, oh my gosh, give me my space. But that's let me in. And I'm saying that to y'all, but I'm saying that to myself as what I'm learning. So he makes fun of me out of love. His love brings me joy. He tells me I'm doing things wrong and makes me smile and do them again and again. So you see, in true Tracey nature, everyone truly needs a coach. And my nephew out of nowhere became my coach. He is my motivator. And we all need loving motivators. Little by little, begrudgingly, I've begun to let my family in. I'm learning to rely on my cousin and his family, knowing they are giving me an opportunity to just be and face the tough stuff I haven't wanted to face. And I'm going to say that again. They're allowing me to be and face the tough stuff that I have not wanted to face. They are teaching me the importance of letting people in my life. They are teaching me to be who I am, who I really am. And when things are quiet and still, I'm learning to let them love me as they truly do. One day, I was walking with my partner and he grabbed my hand. I said, you always grab my left hand and I can't feel it. That's weird. So he says, that's why you always let go of my hand. I always assumed you weren't interested in me touching your hand. So I laughed and I had to say, I'm more than interested. I honestly just didn't want to share that inside part of me that, hey, I have to be vulnerable to let you know that I truly can't feel it. So says, I just want to, I actually, that was me telling me, I want you to only grab my right hand. He proceeds to say, I'm going to continue to grab your left hand and I'm going to purposely grab it, not to annoy you, but I want to give it extra attention. And in true Tracey fashion, with her loving, vulnerable self, I said, I want you to give it the extra attention too. So thank you. I also have a friend who is a Reiki teacher, and she once explained to me that the left side of our bodies represents our feminine side, the yin, and the receiving side. And the right represents the masculine, the yang, the doer. Did y'all not hear my story? Tracey is the doer to the 1000%. Tracey has lost the ability on her left side, the receiving side. And now that makes all the sense in the world to me. I am a doer and a giver, and it's very difficult for me to slow down, to sit and to receive. So my partner, my nieces, nephews, cousins, and God, and life in itself are teaching me to slow down, to stop, to sit and receive. My stroke is teaching me to pay more attention to my left side, which with as much love as I give, I need to learn to receive love. So what's this stroke truly a lesson for me is what I wonder to myself. My stroke is also teaching me to balance my physical and emotional, left and right, sitting and moving, loud and quiet, yin and yang, giving and receiving. My body needs balance, guys. It's so profound, even how that is said. My brain needs balance. My life needs balance. My relationships needs balance. My emotions need balance. So I'm going to go back to a certain part. So I want you to put yourself in this. Your body needs balance. Your brain needs balance. Your life needs balance, and your relationships needs balance. Our emotions need balance, guys. And as I slow down, the whole, and when I say whole, look at it in birth definition as the whole world and the whole that I had in me, because I was not allowing this love in, started to come into focus. I was born into faith as my dad was a pastor. And I'm starting to see God as a mixologist. The Lord himself has molded me with a mix of life experiences, all for this moment here. My passion is not a job, but a calling. I went to culinary art school, became a nutritionist, a chef, my love for fitness, and I'm energized by transformation on the physical, mental, and spiritual side. And guess what? I had a stroke. I believe I am where I should be. I am passionate about my life. I feel like I was made to work in the wellness field. I was built to help people. And the Lord led me to work with stroke survivors. I can't get any better than that, guys. And for 37 years, God hand delivered my tools, prepared me mentally, physically, and spiritually to navigate through the unknown. Sometimes in those dark moments, when facing the unknown, it's difficult to remember that I have the tools I've needed and truly how to put them to use. I try to remember that every single day, but I have to learn something new every single day, as that's a process of learning to live again. But I have the faith that with the breath of life, there is always room for more. Now, when I look back on life, I see that God has always shown up for me on time. Sometimes I am impatient, but at the same time, God knew I am impatient. So we're still working through that, guys. And to focus on the short view to notes. But God, it's never late, guys, never late. So I cannot take credit for who I am or where I am in my life. My job in this life is to let God work through me. And God provides me with all the tools, life experience, people, and timing right on time, guys. You say, what makes me feel alive? What makes me smile? What makes me happy? And what makes me healthy? I see now that the Lord has been my coach too. He has equipped me with the tools and mix of life experiences, guys, to be who I am now. And I am learning every single day. I am receiving love, support, and help. I am truly letting people in, and I have all I need to truly live my best life. And now I too am learning to make it a lifestyle. So my hope for you is that all you stroke survivors and my warriors out there, find what makes you most alive, what makes you smile, and what makes you happy, what makes you healthy. How can I help you make it a lifestyle?
Oh, wow, Tracey, thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
In closing, we take a moment of pause. Tracey spoke about a moment of silence in her life. Stroke forces us to stop and look at life in a new way, a different way. It forces a new beginning on our lives, a new chapter, a new mindset, a new hope. May we take our moment of pause to see that which lies beyond, to see a future of connection, a future of purpose, a future of wisdom, and one of hope. May we use our lives to live our true values, and we give thanks.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to Part 1, Tracey Brown's story. Stick with us for Part 2, Tracey Brown's interview. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we heard from guest Tracey Brown, who was a nutrition and fitness coach for 18 years before suffering a stroke. Tracey shared her thoughts on the struggle with silence, accepting love, receiving help, and facing the unknown. Her story is entitled Moment of Silence. Again, thanks for listening, and remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.